Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in, and today we're going to go over all of the updated foreclosure information, and approximately 220,000 homes right now are in foreclosure inventory. And not only that, you guys, we're going to go into in-depth details on the overall health of the consumer, because I think you guys are going to be really surprised as to what we're going to see once we go over the foreclosure stats. And if you guys can, please don't forget that I'm not a financial advisor, even though my bio is as a renter, a crash bro, Dr. Crash Bro to you, and someone that cares about you. So please, guys, if you can, like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And please, you guys, shoot me a comment below and let me know how you feel this current status of foreclosures are. Let me know when you believe the foreclosure crisis will become unhinged. Overall, you guys, I believe we're going to see the height of a foreclosure wave towards the end of 2025. Now, the name of the article we're going to review today obviously is from Black Knight, but the title is Foreclosure Inventory Hits Lowest Level in 15 Months, while serious delinquencies continue to decline. I'm going to skip the bullet points and we're going to go right into the data, starting with the top line here, which represents delinquencies. Right now, the reality is delinquencies are historically low, but we also know that delinquencies can become unhinged along with unemployment. In fact, you guys, unemployment and delinquencies run hand in hand. But right now we're sitting at 3.21%. That is up slightly month over month at 2.89%. It is down year over year, 3.5%. Now, the next set of information, guys, is the total U.S. foreclosure sale inventory rate. Now, that's sitting at about the same at 0.42%. That's down slightly about 2% month over month and down slightly year over year at 3%. Now, the total new foreclosure starts, right? So this is going to be, unfortunately, future inventory. And I say unfortunately because we don't want inventory from families that are getting kicked out onto the street. We have an additional 26,300 units. Month over month, that's down 6%. Yet, year over year, that's actually up 15%. So really got to deep dive into these numbers. Now, total US foreclosure sales. This is the surprising thing to me. It's only 6,100. Probably because they're not asking for enough under market value for people to want to purchase foreclosures. But the more that they start selling foreclosures well under market value, the more that this will go up. But it's interesting, guys, the foreclosure sales, the actual sales are down 10.75% month over month. So that's pretty big. Year over year, that's down 18.36%. This is very interesting. The number of total properties that are behind or delinquent, but not yet in foreclosure, is sitting at 1.7 million households. That's up month over month, 49,000 households. It's down year over year, 39,000, but a pretty decent uptick month over month. The next group is literally the biggest group of homeowners at risk. It's the serious delinquency status, and that's essentially right before foreclosure proceedings start. You basically have to be 90 days or more past due. And there's right now, you guys, a whopping 468,000 households right now in danger of foreclosure and currently 90 days or more past due. Now, that is a lot of people, but historically, when we look at history, that's actually relatively low. It's probably a result of most homeowners, not the recent ones, definitely not the recent ones, but most homeowners have equity and have low interest rates. So there's, quite frankly, really not a need for foreclosure, at least not yet, until the unaffordability catches up specifically to the new home buyers. And what I'm saying, basically, guys, what I think is by 2025, these new home buyers, essentially anyone that purchased mid 2022 and on, that's going to be the start of the foreclosure crisis. Those people. Moving on, number of properties in foreclosure pre-sale inventory is sitting at a rough 220,000 households ready to be sold. That's down about 4,000 month over month and down about 4,000 year over year. Now, when we get to the last thing here, guys, the total number of properties in some type of financial distress when it pertains to their mortgage is almost 2 million households. And again, you guys, remember what I'm saying. If unemployment becomes unhinged, which more than likely it will to some capacity, these numbers will skyrocket upward. They have not been skyrocketing upward Again, probably a result of a few things: massive equity, super low interest rates, and a labor market that apparently has jobs for everyone. But total number of properties, again, 1.91 million properties. That is up 45,000 month over month, but down 43,000 year over year. Here's the top 5 states for non-current percentage. Looks like we added Indiana to this list. So Pennsylvania, Indiana on this list. The first 3 usual suspects, with the number 1 worst in shape state is Mississippi, sitting at a whopping 7.65% default rate. Very interesting to point out that the maximum default rate was back in 2005, sitting at 23%. Louisiana's number 2, right next to Mississippi for some reason, sitting at 7.1% delinquency rate. Again, you guys, were far from the peak. The peak in Louisiana was 30%. 1 out of 3 homeowners were late on their mortgage in 2005. Really, really shocking, actually. Number 3 is Alabama at a total average delinquency rate at 5.4, followed by Pennsylvania. That one actually surprised me at 4.97. Pennsylvania peaked at 12.5% back in 2010. We kind of got a new member here with Indiana. Indiana is now the number 5 state with delinquency, sitting at a delinquency rate of almost 5% at 4.94%. Now, it did peak at 15.7% again in 2010. I find this interesting as well, you guys. This is the bottom 5 states for non-current percentage. The reason I find this so incredible is some of these states are the West Coast, and right now the West Coast is insanely unaffordable. Now, California's not there anymore. California used to be there, but the number 1 state with the lowest delinquency is actually Colorado, beating the national trend greatly, sitting at a delinquency rate of only 1.95%. That is low. Now, they peaked at 8.64% back in 2010. Now, number 2 is Washington at 2%, number 3, Montana at 2.04%, and Oregon at 2.16%. Really surprising to see that stuff. Now, I want to make clear, now that we've seen a lot more of this play out, we understand a little bit better loan modification and the power of loan modification and really what they're doing for homeowners. You guys, I don't think, and I'm going to go on record and say this, I don't think we're going to have a foreclosure crisis like we did in 2008. And the reason I think that, I can explain. Back in 2008, remember, I was a loan officer from 2002 to the crash, so I went through the whole thing. In 2008, everyone refinanced, okay? But in 2008, everyone refinanced and maxed out their equity, and they took a 6 and 7% interest rate. Fast forward to today, everyone refinanced, but they did a rate and term refinance. So most people did not cash out. Most people refinanced into a 3% interest rate. And on top of that, we have very strong loan modification process, which was not there back in 2009. I know that because I was in loan modification myself. So I don't believe we're going to have an unhinged foreclosure crisis like we did back in the 2009 to 2012 era. However, I'm also saying I don't think we need that level of foreclosure crisis to have a similar level of price decline. And again, the reason I think that is the bubble is bigger this time, and it's more, and in my opinion, it's more unsustainable than our last financial crisis. In fact, I think that we would already be completely melting down if it wasn't for the limited amount of supply. Now let's go into the overall health of the consumer, because the reality is, you guys, consumers are suffering in every other form of consumer debt, every single one except for mortgage. Now, this is an article here. The title is "Credit Card and Car Loan Delinquencies Pass Pre-COVID Levels as Consumers Get Squeezed." This shows us the trajectory of defaults is exploding. This is a brief article I'd like to read. More Americans are failing to make payments on their credit cards and auto loans. Another sign of rising financial pressure on consumers. New credit card and auto loan delinquencies have now surpassed pre-COVID levels, according to a Wednesday report. And again, you guys, we have record low unemployment. We haven't even started recession. School loans haven't even started. Isn't this kind of crazy? A rate of new credit card delinquencies hit whopping 7.2% in the second quarter, up from 6.5% in the first quarter, according to Moody's report. That closely watched rate measures the percentage of loans that became 30 or more days delinquent. This metric is now ahead of where it was in the second quarter of 2019 before the COVID-19 pandemic rocked the economy. The rate of new auto loan delinquencies is also on the rise, hitting somehow 7.3% in the second quarter compared to 6.9% in the first quarter. That's also above pre-COVID levels. This goes on. Moody warns that new credit card and auto loan delinquencies will both continue rising materially, peaking in 2024 between, you guys ready? 9 and 10%. And that's probably conservative. Again, if unemployment becomes unhinged, everything we just went over will get way worse. And you guys, a big reason that is quite frankly, there are so many Americans that are broke. It's actually incredibly sad. Now, this is one of the most recent articles when it pertains to Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck. You guys, an astonishing 61% of Americans say they are living paycheck to paycheck. And essentially what that means is if anything bad happens financially, if they lose their income, they get a surprise bill, a lot of these people are going to suffer. And in fact, the consumer spending, we could probably safely assume that the majority of that is being charged to credit cards. Because the problem right now, you guys, is for most people, things have gotten so unaffordable that America can no longer save money. We really see this problem here on the personal savings rate by Fred. Y'all, this is so low. We're only sitting at 4.3%. Savings rate. Pre-COVID, we were double that. We were sitting in the high 8s and even close to 9%. Y'all see that? 9.1 in January. You guys, the savings rate right now is absolutely pathetic. And as a result of the no savings culture we have, topped with, it's not just that, it's not just bad spending habits, although I will probably argue that most of it is. It's also because things are legitimately extremely unaffordable. And quite frankly, guys, it is just hard to live right now. But again, we are missing something huge from this equation, which is unemployment. Unemployment has remained incredibly low. In fact, sitting at 3.5%, which means it's actually lower than it was when the Federal Reserve was doing quantitative tightening. Imagine that real quick. Imagine how powerful that is. Now, I understand we lost over 500,000 full-time jobs. The numbers are skewed. That's an argument for another video. But what I am saying is even though the number is skewed, even though they're part-time jobs, they're still jobs, and it still gives an ability for consumers that are struggling to make more money. So right now, you guys are sitting at 3.5%. But if this unhinges, everything follows. If this jumps up, say, to 5-6%, more than likely the delinquency rate on mortgages will also hit 5 and 6%. So again, all of this is happening before we've even hit unemployment. And then another thing, all of this is happening before we even have confirmed recession. And if you guys are wondering whether or not we're going to hit recession, this is a historical precedent right here that's saying we are absolutely 100% going to go into recession. Again, if we look at the historical precedent, now this is the 10 and the 2-year inversion. Now, right now it's inverted by 75 basis points. We've been inverted for over a year. Generally, we're inverted for 15 months before entering recession. And also, you guys, generally this line that you guys see here reinverts. So it goes over this right here. Okay, so we'll go over that. So generally this reinverts and then we go into recession. You guys see the depth of the inversion has decreased. The reason that is the 10-year has been skyrocketing, reducing the depth of inversion. However, I also want to warn you, if you're waiting for this to uninvert and then, okay, we're in recession, it's time to buy, be cautious. Because the last inflationary battle of 70s and 80s, we stayed inverted before entering recession. So overall, when all is said and done, the housing market as far as foreclosures is pretty safe from a historical standard, but it's also incredibly tainted because we haven't even seen the results of what's going to happen in the economy once all of that COVID money is burnt away. And we're seeing that. And in fact, let me say one other thing. There was just a recent report that came out that said all of this excess savings, all of this COVID money is actually going to be gone by October of this year. I find that incredibly intriguing because also what happens in October is school loans start. Now, originally they thought excess savings would end next year. So the fact that they're now saying it's ending this year should tell us two things. Number one, consumer spending habits right now are absolutely tragic. And number two, it's very unaffordable. And a lot of people, quite simply, they can't keep up with this unaffordability. I'm struggling myself and I have like 4 jobs. This is a time where we really need to make sure we're doing everything we can to save our money. And I can guarantee you that 90% of the people that are listening to me right now have the ability to improve their purchasing power if they would just remanage and rebudget how they're spending money. And I hope you guys do that. Now, other than that, guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, you know I wish you luck and I hope you win.